Let's talk domain and range. Domain and range is something that you have to understand for the entire year. There will never be a test, there will never be a paper that we don't discuss domain and range. So let's get a good handle on it right from the beginning. So as soon as you see the word domain, what's the first thing you're supposed to remember? Domain is left and right. Domain is x's. That's what we're dealing with. And we need to also associate independent. So let's figure out that much right there. When we are talking about domain, we are talking about x's. We're talking about the left and right part of our data. Now when we talk about range, now we're talking about up and down, vertical. We're talking about y's, aren't we? And because we're talking about y's in a graph, we're talking about dependent. So as soon as we see domain, it has to hit us what we're talking about. So let's do domain of this picture. Now I'm going to do something that is going to really help you. And you're going to pick up another color of some kind somewhere around your desk, and you're going to color where I'm going to color. The domain, of course, is left and right. So let's look over here at the edge of our picture and realize that our picture does not go past -4, does it? Our picture doesn't go past -4. All of this is not in the domain because our picture stops at -4. Let's go to the other side. Where does our picture start, and stop this time? Well, all of this over here is not an answer. It's not part of the solution. What is a graph? A picture of the solutions. So the solutions are in the picture. And my picture does not go past -4, and it does not go above 5. So the domain starts where? -4. And where does it stop? At 5. Now before I finish that, I'm going to do this. When we're talking about domain, what are we talking about? We're talking about x's. And so I'm trying to figure out where are the x's. And the x's in this picture are between -4 and 5. Would you agree with me so far? In my picture, all the answers, all the solutions, all the numbers are between -4 and 5. Okay? So we have a good start to our domain, and we're telling somebody all the answers are between -4 and 5. Now, there's something very important right here. That is an open circle. This one's closed, isn't it? Okay, I'll just go ahead and just close it like that. What those circles mean is it's a message to you telling you. This open circle says that that point is not an answer, whereas this closed one tells us it is. So when we're looking at domain, and we look up here at this open circle, it's telling us that -4 is not an answer. You can get right up to it. You can get -3.99. You can get -3.999, but you cannot have -4. That's what the open circle means. Now the closed circle means it is an answer. Well, how do we tell somebody that in our writing up here that we've been doing? Well, negative 4 less than, but not equal to, right? It is equal to 5, so what am I going to put underneath 5? I'm going to put an equal sign because it can be 5. It cannot be negative 4. And this, if we put these little squiggly things, is set notation. That is set notation. You told everybody the x's are between negative 4 and 5, but that negative 4 is not an answer and 5 is. Now we're going to do interval notation, which is my favorite because all I'm doing is telling you where the answers are. Well, we already know where are the answers. The answers are between negative 4 and 5. Where are the answers? The answers are between negative 4 and 5. Well, if the answers are between negative 4 and 5, there's still something I haven't told you. What is it I haven't told you? I haven't told you if 5 is allowed to be an answer. 5 has a closed circle. Since 5 has a closed circle, it can be an answer. And if it can be an answer, I need to put a bracket. Now, we discussed how negative 4 is not an answer because it's an open circle. And if negative 4 is not an answer, we're going to put a parentheses. A parentheses tells everybody negative 4 is not part of the answers, but 5 has a bracket, therefore it is, and that is interval notation. So let's take everything we've done and let's do range. Now, what did we decide about range? Range is up and down, range is wise, range is independent. All right, get a different color off your desk and let's color. Let's color where the picture stops. Do you see how the picture stops right there? The picture stops at negative 2. And remember, what are we doing? Up and down. We're doing up and down. Where does the picture stop on the top? Well, it stops right here, doesn't it? So now we know where it starts. It starts down here at negative 2. My picture starts at negative 2. And we're doing range, which is up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay, so now I have negative 2. And now, where does my picture stop? Well, it stops at 4, doesn't it? So, my range, now what are we doing? Y's. Okay. So my y's are between, and that's how we're going to start writing it. Our y's are between what two numbers? Our y's are between negative 2, because that's the bottom, and 4, which is the top. Now, I've told people where it is between, but what I have not told you is whether negative 2 or 4 is actually part of the answers. So let's look down here at negative 2. At negative 2 down here, there's a solid circle, isn't there? It was solid. A solid circle means it is part of the answer. If negative 2 is part of the answer, we have to tell somebody. We have to say, yeah, it can be negative 2. It can be equal to negative 2. Now let's look at the top. This is an open circle. And an open circle means it is not part of the answer. It is not part of the answer. So, do we put a little line under this one right here? Nope. We sure don't. We get rid of this, if I can get my little eraser to work, because 4 is not an answer. It's not part of the solution set. So this, when we put our little squiggly brackets, is set notation, isn't it? All right, now let's do interval notation. And interval notation means tell me what things are between. Well, the lowest is down here at -2. The highest is at 4. Interval notation tells me, tell me the interval. Where does it start? Where does it stop? So it starts at -2. It stops at 4. But I do need a way to tell you if -2 is part of the answers or not part of the answers. What do we have down here? We have a solid circle at -2. If we have a solid circle at -2, then we need to put a bracket and tell people -2 is an answer. Alright? But what about 4? If we look up here at 4, there's an open circle. And if there's an open circle, it is not part of the answer. If it's not part of the answer, then we can put a parentheses. So that's the domain and range that you're going to have to be able to do. So let's write something down on your notes that you are supposed to know. Now, you should have already written down your domain and range on your notes, but let's specifically talk about this right here. If it is an open circle, what you know is it is not a, let me do this. Let me do it in red. Not a solution. If it's not a solution, you're going to see things like greater than or less than. You're also going to see parentheses. This you'll see in set notation, and this you'll see in interval notation, won't you? All right, so that's what we've learned so far. If it's an open circle, it's not an answer. And if it's not an answer, I'm going to see things like greater than or less than, and I'm going to see parentheses, because those are messages that tell me it is not a solution. Now, when I see a solid circle, it is a solution. It's part of the solution set. And when I see that, I'm going to see things like less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to, when I do set notation, aren't I? And what am I going to see when it's interval notation? Well, I'm going to see these nifty brackets for interval notation. All right, we're going to practice 2 more real quick, and then if you need to pause the video or start over. All right, let's start with domain. Domain, what is the lowest in my picture? What is the highest in my picture? Well, it looks to me that like the lowest in my picture is -3, and the highest in my picture is 4. Now I have to tell somebody, is it a solution? Is it not a solution? Well, I see open circles, don't I? Open circles mean they are not in the solution, so I don't need to put equals to. So this is my set notation. Interval notation even easier. What is the lowest part? -3. What's the highest part? 4. How do I tell somebody they are not part of the answers? Because both of these have open circles. Therefore, I put parentheses. Now, some people get a little confused right here and start thinking that's a point. It's not. It's interval notation. All right? So let's get rid of this and let's do range. All right? So I'm going to take my picture and I'm going to decide, okay, my picture stops right there at -2, and my picture stops right there at 3. All right. So the lowest thing it can be is -2, and the highest thing it can be is 3. Okay, good. Now I need to tell somebody, are the end points, are the points at the very end, are they part of the picture, the solution? Nope. Looky there, wide open, open circles. If they are open circles, there's no equal to. Put my squiggly brackets, and there's my set notation. Interval notation, okay. Well, that's easy. That's just -2 and 3, because interval notation is where do you start, Where do you stop? Lowest to highest. But how do I tell people? How do I tell people that they are not, because those are open circles, open circles. How do I tell people they are not part of the solution set? I put a parentheses. Let's try one more. All right, if we're doing domain, we're talking left and right. So I'm gonna find the edges of my picture. I'm gonna do this, and I'm going to do this. Okay, that's where my picture starts and stops, doesn't it? Well, my picture starts at -2, and my picture stops at 2. Again, what are we looking for? We're looking for this area right here. It started at -2, it stopped at -2. That's what happened in my picture. All right, what do I need to tell people, though? I need to tell people that either the endpoints are part of the answer or they're not. Well, I'm looking right up here and I'm seeing a big old closed circle. I see a big closed circle right there. I think that means that -2 is an answer and 2 is an answer. Well, good. All I need to do is put my squigglies brackets. Interval notation, well, that's easy. That's just -2 to 2. Because though it's the lowest, to -2, it's the highest, 2. All right, now, I need to tell people, do you keep -2 or is -2 not an answer? Well, I look up here again. What's that big old closed-in circle mean? That big closed-in circle says -2 is an answer and 2 is an answer. Okay, good. Now let's get rid of all of that. And let's do range. All right, so what's the lowest? I'm going to color down here. I'm going to tell myself, yep, that's it. There we go. All right. Now, the lowest thing in my picture is -5, isn't it? And we're dealing in Y's. The highest thing in my picture is +5. Now I need to let somebody know, is it an answer or is it not an answer? It is an answer. Look at that. They're nice and closed. They are answers. I have to put the equal signs because they are answers. I put my little squigglies, and that is set notation. Interval notation. Oh, that's easy. -5 to 5. Good. All right. So I got -5 to 5. I need to tell somebody, yes or no, are the endpoints in? Well, those are closed circles. They're both closed circles. Then I need to put this right here. All right, you have 2 problems to finish, and I guarantee you will do yourself a favor to go ahead and watch at least some of the other video. That's a video you're going to end up watching several times. So I just want to make sure you understand you need to, this is huge. This domain and range is such a big part of what we do. If you didn't understand this, watch this one again. If you thought you got a little bit, go watch the next one. This is so hard, and it's going to be on every test, everything we do from now on. From now till June, it'll still be there.